Hi, I'm Joel H. Brewster, and I'm no stranger to horror. And this is a podcast about the big and small of the genre with the hopes to turn you from being a casual horror fan into a spooky film fanatic like myself. Today, I'll be talking about the film Super Dark Times from 2017, directed by Kevin Phillips. And along with me, I will have Jessey James Nelson and Cody Nelson to talk about their film Crumbs and some inspirations they took from the film Super Dark Times. I'm very excited about this movie because I was introduced to me from these gentlemen. I was actually always wanted to see it, but it was one of those things I got around to it. And then when I did, I was really blown away. So, gentlemen, thank you for introducing me to that movie, and please introduce yourself to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're really stoked to be here.
So, how long have you guys been working together?
Sorry. So we have been working together for about in this department about a year and a half now, I'd say. So my brother and I run a production company called SPK Productions, and we generally focus in the genre of comedy, but some of our first productions have been little shorts in the horror department. And so we have been working side by side ever since then.
Do you find there's a connection between comedy and horror? I've always felt there's a connection in the sense of the build up to the punchline, and that it has a very similar element. So I feel like people that do comedy translate into horror very well, and we've been able to see that with Jordan Peele and other comedy heavyweights. Do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is Cody talking, by the way. Now that was Jessey previously, and I definitely agree that there's a connection between horror and comedy. Yeah, like you were saying, like there's like the setup, punchline that kind of goes with even like a jump scare. There's like a setup and the jump scare, a setup and a punchline. There's also just some of the best horror movies incorporate like some levity, and they'll use a lot of comedy in their script. So in that sense, like we like to incorporate a little bit of both, and we're not really monogamous when it comes to genre.
And Jessey, for yourself, what type of comedy did you grow up watching? I'll ask you both this question. I just want to make sure we get to both voices here. What type of comedy did you grow up watching?
All sorts. I mean, I think I've always been a fan of the crude humor, the humor that involves injury, any type of humor. There's nothing really specific. I'm a big fan of anyone who pushes the envelope and really stands behind their jokes. Some of my favorite comedians would normally be the cancelable type, especially in this day and age, but they're just so strong and committed to what they say that they just, they're just really into the fact that, there is something to laugh at with every subject. And I've always really envied any comedian that can do that.
Absolutely. Like they believe in the art of the joke.
Oh, yeah.
And Cody, how about yourself?
Yeah, we grew up in a household that really valued comedy. So we grew up around a lot of the same stuff, a lot of stand up. A lot of reality type humor. Like we love like John Doerr and Nathan Fielder and Sacha Baron Cohen, all of that kind of stuff.
Awesome. And how many siblings do you have? Is it just you two? And Jessey was telling me before, you have a sister as well?
Yeah, we have a sister and then two half brothers, but we grew up all in the same household. We were such a big household, and we always had people coming in and out. Our mom ran a daycare. Our cousin Rocky lived with us for a very long time, and we were just had such a big full household at all times, basically.
That really interests me too, that when I asked you both about being on the podcast, and we were talking about what movies to do, you suggested two movies, and they both had the same. Both had a family element to it. So the first movie was Hereditary, and the other one was Super Dark Times. I was drawn to Super Dark Times because I've already seen Hereditary, which I loved, but I hadn't seen Super Dark Times. I'd only seen the poster for it, so I went into it pretty blind. And what blew me away was the family element of it, and I grew up in a small town, so it really resonated with me with the small town element. I felt like I knew all those characters before. But did you guys grow up in a small town? Because you said you come from a bigger family from the sounds of it. Did both of the small town elements as well as the family elements resonate to you in this movie?
I wouldn't say we grew up in a small town at all. Actually, we grew up in Richmond mostly. And then we moved over to Langley. So we've never really been in that. We've always been in the suburbs area. Mm-hmm. But I did relate a lot with the film in the sense of, just being kind of out there with your friends and just hanging out at the parks. Like we always had like tight knit friends, and like my brother said, we're around a lot of kids because my family raised half of them because she was part of the daycare. The moment that a kid wasn't drinking milk from the tit, my mom pretty much took care of them at a certain point around the school. So we were often out in the parks. We weren't like free roaming by any means. Like we definitely, our parents definitely didn't let us do whatever we wanted, but the element of just going and playing and doing things you weren't supposed to be doing, I definitely related with that in the film.
Yeah, the film felt to me when I watched it, it was like I saw elements kind of like a super bad in a way, like the coming age, that sort of comedy, and how it started out too. Like the dialogue just felt like I felt like I was in that group of guys. Like I've been around those exact kids. I've been those exact kids, and just the conversations. And then when it got to, if anyone hasn't seen this movie yet, by the way, so this is the time to pause it and watch the movie. But it got to the part with Daryl, and I had my hands over my mouth the entire time. Like it was just one of those things that this movie, I went into it blind enough that when I was covering my mouth the entire time, I kind of knew what was going to happen, but yeah, it blew me away.
Yeah, and I think why that moment works so well is like you were saying, because it feels so authentic, like a real group of friends. Like you could see yourself going out and playing around with that sword, like we were doing dumber shit than that when we were kids. Like I could easily see us being in a situation like that with a group of friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think they did such a really great way of all the different character dynamics, right? Like how would you have handled that situation? You're all part of a situation where you watched something bad happen, and everyone had their own different way of reacting into it, pretending it didn't happen, wishing it happened more. And then the psychological element of young kids going through a tragic situation like that, you could really feel the things they were going through in each area. And I think the score really helped with that as well, which was a huge inspiration towards our film. And you can hear that in the tones of the film with the music, like what they were going through in their brain and whatnot. And I think that was something that was really important for us in our movie.
Yeah, in your movie Crumbs, I was gonna get to this because I wrote a note to myself, especially for this, but I didn't even need one because it stuck out to me so much. The theme for Crumbs, like for the actual like monster when he was, every time he'd kind of appear, was so cool. It was just such a cool like moment. Yeah, every time like I heard that, it was pretty cool. And another thing that really stuck out to me was that I could tie with Super Dark Times was the overall look of it. It just seemed just the realness of the look of it, even though there was more of a supernatural element, I should say, in Crumbs, or would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I think
something like that.
I think so. But I think what we wanted to do was make it feel real at the same time. And I think, again, another element of Super Dark Times, I mean, when you go into his mind, when he's sleepwalking, when he's having those dreams, they just felt like realness and like he was actually going through it. And I think often when we're having bad dreams or going, daydreaming even in this area, like sometimes it comes off and it feels real to you. So I think that's the kind of the element we were going through with Shiloh and his imaginary friend and how real it felt to him.
I really did feel like that dream sequence in Super Dark Times. Yeah, it kind of, I feel that dream sequence in Super Dark Times is the closest connection for me to Crumbs visually. That I feel like that had the same sort of elements like right in that moment there. But the overall like look of it they're both so unique in look that I really liked. And the casting too, that was another fantastic thing about another thing I tie both movies. I feel that with a lot of movies now that the cast doesn't look authentic. It looks like a lot of movies I see now, especially horror movies, everyone looks a little too, they just look like actors more so. With the cast in this, I felt everyone played their role so well, but everyone just looked so authentic in Crumbs, but also in Super Dark Times.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like every character in this movie just like seems like it seems like they just like plopped into a small town. They just threw up a camera and like they just were filming these kids' lives. And I think we just got really lucky when it came to Crumbs. Like we just went through the regular old casting process, and everyone like that, all those people that we ended up getting were our like first choices, and it was just it worked out perfectly, and it was like almost exactly like they just leapt off the page.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because like with the Crazy Eights experience, they give you a lot of mentorship, and they put you through all of the motions of what it's like to film like a real Hollywood movie essentially. And so the pickings were so great. Like we were so blown away, and to watch people read our script, we're just like, oh my goodness, like it's a level of high that everyone I think should experience. But we certainly had our Hollywood, like if we could absolutely have anybody. But what I think we were lucky because I think the actors that we got were actually for the better, and it really helped tell our story. And I think we got a lot of really talented actors that will be some big deals one day. And we're excited to have worked with them while we could.
I couldn't agree more. One thing too, I felt with Crumbs that it feels like, and this is just my sort of, as a horror fan, this is my sort of prayer for you guys to make this happen. But it feels like it fit into like an anthology. Like I could see it fitting into an anthology of very similar toned movies. And I would love to see more of this, not necessarily this world, but just similar in style to this one, because from beginning to end, I would like the 15 minutes of it, I was just blown away. And I felt like it could fit in, like, you know what I mean, in a world of further anthologies or a series that goes along with it.
Thank you so much. And it's funny you say that, because that is kind of something we are working towards. Jessey can speak a little further on it, but yeah, we were talking, we're still playing with the ideas, but we definitely want to turn Crumbs into a much bigger concept. And like you were saying, anthology, where you can explore different types of Crumbs, as in like mental illness type monsters.
Yeah, like we, one thing that kind of got brought to our attention was, like we're really big fans of creating something new and original, and it's a lot harder these days because like everything's been done, and you're always taking inspirations from other films to create the world that you're trying to create, and that's totally cool. But I think that we have a really cool concept here, and the mental illness subject is quite the hot topic these days. I don't know if that's the correct term I should be using, but more and more people are coming out and talking about it and telling their stories. And I think there's a really cool element where you could tell a story about what the things you went through, and maybe if you went through a mental illness or you knew someone who did, and like converting it into a story about a monster, or how you survived or how you didn't survive. There's just so many ways that can go. And also like based on different religions and different cultures, like what would those monsters look like when they've been put through something, and the inspirations that they had in order to escape from reality. There's just so much to work with there, and we think there's really a cool branch off the Crumbs tree that we could go in many different directions.
And what made you choose mental illness for your story, though? Like, what was, because it is very fascinating. There is definitely, like you said, a big world to build behind that. But what made what made you guys really focused on that?
Originally it started off as like a kind of, a situation where, I made up this clown character in order to trick these kids into eating their food that my stepmom was taking care of. And they were actually born with mental illnesses. Both of them have fetal alcohol syndrome. And I kept thinking, I'm like, this is so unfortunate that these kids like are literally born into trauma. And after trying to scare them into eating their food with this clown, I was like, why does all the monsters want to eat the kids? Why can't they help the kids? I'm sure these kids have been through enough. Maybe these kids can make a deal with the monster and say, hey, monster, I'll feed you some of my crumbs, and then you can help me out with my shiz. And so it kind of developed from there. And one of the things is our father, he went through a really shitty situation growing up, and he was unfortunate in a big household, and he went through some abuse mentally and physically growing up, and he has some mental illness situations that he's dealing with. And our idea was that like if we could kind of go back in time to like what my father went through and save him or help him survive with an imaginary monster, what would that look like? And that kind of evolved from there. And so yeah, I think it's really important that people speak up about any issues that they're going through, and they're able to tell their story, because if you get it out there, you never know who can help you, or help you get through dark situations in your life. And I think that with a story like this, people might be more willing to talk about those things. And how cool would it be to get your story turned into a horror film?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really, like you were both saying, like horror does work as a good vehicle for that, and it does really open up the world to tell more social stories. But the bullying aspect too in Crumbs was another thing that was tackled, and you just never really know what someone's going through. Is what another thing that I kind of pictured when I was watching Crumbs. The kids were bullying Shiloh's character, and they didn't really like feel like they didn't really know what he was going through behind that. But and not to justify whether them being bullies would have made sense, like you know what I mean, like even if they knew. But I thought that was really interesting too, to kind of see the bullies just like Shiloh kind of getting it on both ends. And I thought that was a very interesting way to view the character. Usually I feel like in horror movies, they usually get it from one end or the other, but you guys really did a good job of showing it from both ends, and it just really opened up the world there.
Yeah, and the bullies are something that we talked a lot about, especially because it's such the ideas about like generational trauma and like and you receiving trauma from your parents. And we talked about like a lot of these things that the bullies are saying or are doing is something that they've learned. It's not something that comes naturally, and it's probably something that they're receiving at home too, and they've turned into this the way they're bullying Shiloh. So it's there's a lot to explore there, especially like you're saying, not to sympathize with the bullies or anything like that, but like there is a way where you can also do a whole Crumbs just about what the bullies are going through, because I'm sure that they're going through some stuff too, and why they're passing this trauma on to Shiloh as well.
Mm-hmm. I thought another connection between Crumbs and Super Dark Times was with, if you include the bullies, if you include his stepfather, I should call him, that comes in there. Mm-hmm. If you include all the characters there, I feel like this and Super Dark Times don't have one character that's wasted. I feel like every single character in there has a story that I would like to see. Do you know what I mean? Like see explored. There was not one person in there that felt like ornamental. They were just, everyone seemed to just nail their roles, but also feels like they have a world behind them, which is really cool that you guys were able to build that.
Yeah, totally. And a thing that we have in common with Super Dark Times as well is basically having a point of view character, and everything you see in the movie is from Shiloh's point of view, just like in Super Dark Times, everything is from Zach's point of view. And although, like you're saying, these characters are like really developed, you don't really see their at-home life. You don't see anything that isn't from the main character's point of view. Everything is filtered through them. And
I feel like that in both Super Dark Times and Crumbs, even though it's from the point of view there, it was amazing that like even though we're just seeing from the main character's point of view, that the world behind them is just super cool. One of the characters from Super Dark Times that was my absolute favorite was his mom, Karen. I just found her every single time she was on screen. She was this like the best mom I've seen in a movie, like in forever. I thought she was really fascinating. She was like really cool, really funny, but like concerned and very present. She was like the coolest mom I've ever seen on screen.
She's really good at playing that role too. I believe she's the cool mom on 13 Reasons Why as well. That has to deal with Clay. Is she?
I believe that's
yeah,
right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get that kind of vibe from her as well. And honestly, we wanted to actually, paint that with the mom in our story as well, Gia. The idea was, you only have so much time to, explore those characters in 15 minutes. But we wanted to paint her as that really cool, fun mom at the beginning that, was totally a great mom there for Shiloh. And then just when Mike, when the unfortunate thing happens to Mike, it's like she gets put in this vulnerable situation where she's lost a big chunk of her, and then somebody swoops in, and then she's trapped, and all of her happiness is kind of like sinking away, and it's just her and Shiloh, and there's still that fun element deep within her, but it's kind of being crushed. And as much as we'd love more time to spend with those characters, we'd like to see more of that stuff. It's that was kind of the vibe we were going through with her as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Another thing that I found that both connects movies, obviously there was a lot of connections, but grief. I found that grief in itself in both films played like a major role, like almost like its own character in a sense. And I thought that how you tackled grief in both movies, like you were saying with the mom in Crumbs, as well as the main character in Super Dark Times, like grief is just tackled very interestingly.
Yeah, I think like this movie set a huge tone for how we wanted to, have the approach of mental illness kind of creeping up on Shiloh and how it was blooming in his life. And I think that I would definitely agree with very similar. I literally just watched Super Dark Times again before I got in here, so I'm very fresh on this. But yeah, I think that's it must have been without us fully being aware that we were doing it so similarly, but there's definitely a lot of connections there. And I think that it was a really good setting stone for our film because this is our first time tackling a movie like this with this caliber of production, and we really wanted to find a film that we could kind of take and dissect and put our film version into that world. And I think this one had a lot to offer for that.
Mm-hmm. One more. Well, I'm sure I've got actually a bunch more, but another compliment I'm gonna give you guys. You brought clowns back, because I feel like I've seen every clown movie, and I've been like, oh, I've seen every clown movie. You guys made clowns cool again. I was watching this one. I was like, oh, this is such a cool clown character. I really like that.
Hey, that's nice. I like that.
My girlfriend's dad is going to be happy about that. He's actually a professional clown, and he has always just been pissed off basically that like all these movies I've been kind of painting clowns as like these horrible, like they're always the villain, and we kind of had the chance to reclaim them as like a good guy again.
Yeah, you made a scary clown anti-hero. It's like you hit every single marker for me. I was like, you hit everything. You got an anti-hero clown that's protecting a child. You brought clowns back. You really nailed it.
Oh, awesome. That means a lot. That means a lot.
That's the best compliment I've heard.
Yeah. We were very stoked to see the overall look. Quite the process when you're trying to do that. And you have this idea in your mind, and then we were very much about the collaborative effort. We were going through a lot of people who wanted to like help out with the clown look, and we were like, this is what we think it should look like. We started off with like the Crow and Pennywise, and we had some Death Note vibes. People kept reading the script and going, this kind of has a Death Note vibe. The kid and his monster, and I'm like, yeah, no, I love that idea. Like let's go with that, and then just going through a bunch of different ideas. And, your good friend Mick was a huge part of that, getting his creative team on board, drawing up little sketches and being like, we like this, but we want to see more of this. And just, it was a really amazing process to get to where we got to. And I think we're both super, super happy with how he ended up looking.
Oh yeah.
We wanted him to like be his own original thing, but it was also like this idea that he's like a manifestation of Shiloh's, his grief. It's a manifestation of all these things, but all these things that also inspire Shiloh. And so we were talking about things of the time, like, because it takes place in the 90s, of like what things would Shiloh be inspired by to like manifest this clown. And so like we were talking about things like The Crow and video games, and we're taking from all of these different avenues to try and make it a new original clown, which was very hard to do. There's already been so many different kind of clown looks. It's very difficult to try and find your own original look.
Well, yeah, the look is one thing, but the personality too that you guys built together was also a thing that really stood out to me. The look was what like already really stuck out to me. I've never seen a clown really look like that, and I can definitely see the elements where you were saying from like even like Death Note to Crow, but the personality of the clown really kind of threw me off on what I was expecting. I think I was expecting like kind of a silent, scary clown, not necessarily to like crack some jokes, and it like worked perfectly. It was a perfect blend of being like funny because it's a clown, right? Like kind of having that comedy element of being a clown, but also the protecting of Shiloh. I thought it was just a perfect mix.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like we should give a lot of credit to Jared Evanshaw, who plays Crumbs. He brought like a lot to this character, like just like the way he walked, the way he formed his fists, the way he did, like, from what I heard, that he was like studying like basically like children, because Crumbs is from a children's book, and he's kind of has this arrested development of like being a child Crumbs, but he has like this violent tendencies, and Jared brought a lot of those kind of elements. But we did definitely, even in the script stage, we're like, it's such a dark movie, we want Crumbs to come in and bring some levity, bring a little bit of humor, as well as some of its darkest moments are from Crumbs too. So he brings a little bit of both.
That's really cool, actually, that I'm going to rewatch now. I didn't really think of that childlike element to him when he's like, even like just like how he moves and everything. That's very cool. I don't really, yeah. Looking back, it's really cool.
What's one of the things that we wanted to, you know, when we were discussing between the two films, Hereditary was another big one because we're such huge fans of Ari Aster, and if Ari Aster is such a brilliant, you know, horror film director and writer, and he often hides a lot of Easter eggs in his films, and we're huge fans of Easter eggs. If you watch our film Crumbs, even, you'll see things that you didn't see the first time, because a lot of the elements we were placing into the film, we wanted to have that, because there's something really cool about people leaving and talking about things and being like, did you see that? Did you notice that? And be like, no, I didn't. Now I gotta watch it again. And I think there was a lot of inspirations between some of the things that came out in that, and then what the characters brought too. Like, it's just funny seeing actors be like, hey, I noticed you've been doing this a lot, and since you're part of me, I'm gonna start doing that too. And you can kind of see those things evolve in the movie. So there's definitely things to go back and watch for when you see it again.
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that, because it obviously adds like a rewatch value to it, right? Like, usually there's a lot of horror movies I love that you can only watch once, but yeah, I like to hear that, because it definitely does add to like every single time I watch it. That's really cool. In Super Dark Times, another one actor, I should say, that really stuck out to me, the character Josh, who is absolutely brilliant in everything he's in, is just, I feel like everything he's in, he just seems like the most troubled character. I've seen him in Gotham, Ozark, and like Castle Rock. He always just has this like kind of troubled look to him, even though this story was told through was a character named Zach, I think it was the main character's point of view.
Yeah, Zach's the main
yeah.
character.
Even though it was told through Zach's point of view, I feel like that with Josh's character, I got elements of both him and Zach kind of mixed together. That's where I kind of saw Shiloh in my mind. And correct me if I'm wrong here. I felt like I could see elements of both of those two characters in Shiloh.
Yeah, totally. I could definitely see that. Like, not that they were direct references for us at all, but you are kind of right. Like, there's just like he has like the kind of at home mom like Zach does. Josh's like family life is like it's interesting, because Josh's family's life is like almost just non-existent, but he's extremely like misunderstood. In the way that Shiloh is as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like some of the things, like, you know, when you're working with a certain budget like we were, and also like worried about copyright issues, you know, we discussed like video games as being like inspirations, more comic books. You'll see comic books in the room of Shiloh when you watch it, and you'll see posters on the wall. And you know, there were a lot of those elements, I think, in Josh's life. But then, you know, Zach has the loving mom and the parent that actually is concerned about him. And so I think, you know, Gia had those elements inside her. Stephanie Isaac is the actor that played her, and she did an amazing job at playing that character. And there was, you know, it's funny because you're pointing these things out, and I think we did it without knowing we did it, really. But I think that happens when you're like watching a lot of different horror films and stuff like that. You're like, I know I heard of that somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I'm going to use it. And then here somebody watches another film and points out other perspectives, and it's really.
Oh yeah, the films themselves are like very different, but I just think like the things that there's elements I love in both the films that I can like in my mind when I'm like putting them together, I can connect them in that way. But the films are very different in perspective and overall look. But I love especially the 90s element. Because I don't see enough 90s anything. I feel like we're in a big 80s era throwback right now. So seeing anything 90s was really cool too.
Yeah, Super Dark Times was just like a direct reference, like in look and time and feel all across the board. Like plot wise, we know we didn't really have much in common with them, but we knew we wanted to set it in the 90s. And we just loved that they kind of had this 90s indie film aesthetic, but like really polished. And yeah, they just like looks wise, they nailed exactly what we wanted. And that's kind of why you'll see that we imitated a lot there.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I just really the colors and the tone and everything. I love the colors and tone of Crumbs, and just yeah, it really stuck out to me. It was one of those things I watched it, and then I think I messaged you. I messaged like they were like right away. I think Jessey messaged you right up like the second after I seen it. Yeah, like this, like the moment. It was one of those things that it was, and same with same with Super Dark Times. The second I saw it, it was one of those things I just had to talk about it with somebody. I was like, yeah, so I've just seen it, and that's what I liked about both these. They really had that effect on me of the second I saw them, I really had to like talk about them. And also,
Yeah,
they both gave me moments of covering my mouth when and I've seen like all the horror movies under the sun, but they both had moments for me in them that I was like covering my mouth in shock, sort of. And
No, I was just gonna say it's that real feeling. It's like it feels real. It didn't seem like a one of those horror films where it's like over the top with the violence and whatnot. It's just like shit. If that's how it happened in real life, pretty sure that's exactly how it would look and feel. And I think one of the tones of like the colors, it's always looking overcasty. This town just always seems so sad. And it's like, even when they're having fun, it's usually the camera movements and the music that's playing that's setting the tone for a positive interaction, not so much the colors, because you just always know it's just like nothing's really going great. And I think that's what we wanted to do with Crumbs. And that's why at the very beginning of the film, you'll see all the colors and how light it is and how it seems like really like they're going through like a happy family interaction. And then throughout the rest of the film, it's basically blues, grays, and dark colors. And originally, when I thought of this idea, I actually wanted to do like a reverse Wizard of Oz, where it starts off in color and ends in black and white. But which I still think is a cool concept and idea. But like, I still like the way that we went with this in the sense that, nothing really, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm not going to say too much, but I think the colors really set the tone for the rest of the film in Crumbs.
yeah. I'm trying to find it hard here not to like spoil things for it. But it's one of those movies too. I feel like with Crumbs, I'm not going to, but I feel like it's one of those movies that you could still spoil and still see, and you'd still have a similar effect, especially with with you guys saying there's like a lot of like Easter eggs and things like that in there. I feel that it's one of those movies that regardless you should always see, just because of like the look and everything like that. I really thought it, and especially the angle of the mental illness. I think that's two things that elevated to being something that even with spoilers, it's always worth to see.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, we've found it kind of difficult to hide as much as we originally wanted to, because we almost like kind of wanted to really tease Crumbs, just like you like only like when it came to trailers and posters. And you'll see that in our poster, like we do really just tease him. But then and even in the trailer, we really just do a little tease. But some of like the promo materials that have been coming out, you get a full on look of what Crumbs is, which kind of got away from us a little bit because we're like, oh, we don't even want to show people Crumbs. And then now it's like, it's just difficult to stay away from spoilers these days,
Yeah, it is. That's fully understandable. It's been fun to watch you guys to watch it unfold on Instagram, and just like watch the kind of like the promotional like everything unfold, but also to see all the people that worked behind the scenes and just to see them get love, because I feel that a lot of the time that there's not too much love outside of the whole film crew, and you guys have done a really good job at like showing like every single person that puts together the short film, which has been really cool.
Yeah, we were really blessed to have an amazing stills photographer for all our behind the scenes, two actually, Charlie Kanan and Lucas, I don't want to say his last name
Cyprian,
wrong.
I think.
Cyprian, yeah.
Cyprian?
And so we were able to we have so many like amazing photos of like basically everyone that worked on it. And we're kind of like, you know what, people want to see behind the scenes, people want to see the movie. Let's give love to everyone that helped out with this project as much as we can, because we wouldn't have been able to do it with any of them. And I think it's really cool to watch that build up. And we haven't even got to the premiere release of the film, and it's, it'll be making the festival circuits, but I think it's really important for people to see where it came from and how it was built, and how it started off as this small idea and a bunch of friends and winning this contest, and then getting into it with all these new people that have come along the way to help us build this beautiful film.
And there was definitely a lot of downsides to filming this during a global pandemic. But I think one of the good things was that it made us keep our crew size low. Like we could not have a larger crew size than 28 people. So because of that, we became such like a tight knit group. Like I felt like we were just a family by the end of it.
That's really cool. And I feel like that translates well to when you actually see a film, when it has that sort of like family and heart sort of put into it, then you can there's more emotion of everything when I visually see it. I feel this way anyways, than if I were to see like a huge budget like Marvel movie. I feel like there's less heart in those films sometimes, because you can just really see that this film, like there was a lot of love and like kind of like a family sort of environment to put together to make this film. But that's also the story has that element too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I'm really happy to hear you say that you felt that through all this, because I think that's super important. And I feel the love as far as like, the production company that Cody and I has started together with our good friend Phil. We brought a lot of our friends and people that we've been working with for a long time to give opportunities on this film. So it very much started off as a family element, and we kind of just added more members to our family after this. Cody went to film school at BCIT, and he got a lot of his homies from there to be part of this, and it was kind of cool to see that and how they're all working with us now too. So that was great.
That also seems to be another connection with Super Dark Times. Is like I was listening to some interviews and director commentary, and it seems like all of these guys have been friends for like a very long time. They work together quite often, and they brought it to their first feature film. So I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool. I didn't want to assume that, but it felt like that same thing too, right? It felt like that, like I think we've already said the authenticity of it all. It feels like it can come through to the film. You can visually just see it that way. And I also just like, I just feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like you guys had a vision for a while before you actually put this in place, because it just feels like a vision coming true.
Yeah. Well, fun fact, when Cody and I first started Smashed Potato Kids, SPK Productions, we wanted to start small. So we were like, I think the power of starting something to completion is very important, and it really gets the wheels spinning. So Cody and I both came up with 15-second horrors, and it was a film challenge that we wanted to enter. So Cody wrote one and I wrote one, and mine was called Crumbs. And it was the story of a clown that essentially just eats food's children under the table. There wasn't much to it. You can only say so much in 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. But that idea really stuck with me. And it just kept evolving in my head. And like I said, it went from the whole thing of being like, the original kids that I used to tease are actually in this horror film, the 15-second version. And you can actually go back to at Smashed Potato Kids on YouTube, and it's the very first 2 videos that we ever posted. And the idea just never left my head. And like, as we talked about it more and you share it with your friends and then share it with family, and it starts connecting the pieces, and you're like, this idea has a lot of legs, and we need to keep this thing alive. And a year later or so, I pitched it to my roommate, and he's like, you should pitch that to Crazy Eights. That sounds great. And so we did, and here we are.
That's awesome. I'll definitely put that into the show notes. Like the original, well, the 15-second one.
Yeah, I can. I'll send you the link so you can show your fans.
It could not be more different. Like just the look of Crumbs, like just like much has changed since then. It's cool to see how much has changed. But yeah, it's not inspiring. It's not a good idea. Like if you were trying to get a taste of what this Crumbs short film is going to be like, it's not the best comp, but.
However, it is a great idea if you want to see where people start and how they can end up.
Yeah, I will put that caveat out there. That is really good to specify. Just on the question of the Smashed Potato Kids, how did that? Because I'm hearing that you guys started out with your friend. Is it Philip? Is that other co-founder?
Yeah, Philip Zavanovich. He's my roommate, and he's good friends, and we are the 3 main bays of SPK Productions.
So why the name Smashed Potato Kids? I'm just curious about that too.
Yeah. So do you want to tell the story, Code?
Well, it's the quick version is basically we all met at I didn't meet Jessey. Jessey's my brother, but we met a big group of friends that we ended up making this group with at a music festival. And it was just, we were at I think it was like a White Spot or a Ricky's or something, and they served smashed potatoes. And we were just like, this weekend, we're the Smashed Potato Kids. And like, it just evolved. It wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later that we actually made the sketch comedy group, but we kind of just like remembered back to the moment where we all met, and like, that was like a connecting factor. And it was really key, because I just loved the name. That name just meant something right away to me. And I remember I like went on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everything. And I took all of the handles for Smashed Potato Kids, because I'm like, this is going to be something one day. And like Cody said, it took us years to even start. And even when we started, we only did 1 sketch. And then there was another lull in between there. And then one day me and Cody were just like, let's just do it. Like, let's do it. We have everything we need. We went and saw Seth Rogen live one time, and he basically just was like,
You guys have everything you need. You have your camera phones, you have editing software on your computer. Just do it. Start stuff, finish it, and even if it's shit, make stuff better next time. And so I'm like, let's do it. And we started Smashed Potato Kids for reals. And the more we make stuff, the more people want to be involved. So it's been growing ever since.
That's really cool. I've seen you guys. Oh, sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, like, just on what Jessey was saying, like that people keep wanting to join in on the fun, and we have like well over like 50 people now that like we have pooled together, and like all different types of creatives that have joined in some capacity.
Yeah, I think one of the things we really acknowledged, you know, as having a lot of friends that are actors, is that there's so many people in Vancouver that are very well skilled and deserve to be on the screen acting, and they're just not getting their chances. But they keep at it and they keep working, but it can be discouraging for a lot of people. And we're kind of like, well, if we could start writing and making content and get them to be in our stuff, like, you know, that would really help a lot. And I'm sure it would encourage more actors to want to act and keep going. And it's been, you know, the results has been just that. Like we've grown in numbers like crazy. I still get messages. People are asking to audition for us, and you know, it's very humbling to hear that. But we have definitely been really stoked on what it's become and what it's becoming, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, as far as auditioning goes, so a lot of it just your friends. It's like people don't audition for it. I'm assuming that's what you're just saying.
Yeah, like I mean, as of right now, we don't really have like a set crew. Like I said, Cody, Phil, and I are the most main members. We have some certain actors that have definitely acted more than others. But for the most part, it's just I like to see people that really want it and just come out. And we tend to be like, if somebody keeps messaging me and going like, hey, I can act, I can do this, I'm like, oh, let's give them a shot. Let's see what they can do. It's kind of how it's been going.
A lot of the time, the actors are the writers as well. Like we'll do these weekly writer rooms. And if we feel like a script is ready to go to camera, a lot of the times the writer of that script will also cast it. So out of people that they know that are Smashed Potato Kids, they'll be like, I think this person would be good for the role. So that's a lot. Like it's less of a casting process and more just of like choosing who you feel in the Smashed Potato Kids is suited for the role.
Mm-hmm. That leads me to my next thing I was going to say there. It feels like you both are very multifaceted in a number of different things in film. So apart from acting and writing, what else do you both do in film?
Yeah, so, well, basically, Cody Cody went to film school at BCIT. I got accepted to the program, but like for most of my life, I've been in restaurant management, actually.
Yeah. So basically, you know, I've been wanting to be an actor since I was like 3 years old. I think that's when I took my first acting class. And, you know, life happens, been in and out of it. And then I got to a certain age where I'm just like, it's not just going to fall into my lap. No one's just going to see me serving at a restaurant and be like, I want you to be in my thing. So, you know, I think that with Cody going to film school, and me knowing a lot of people in the industry, I just kind of wanted to use my leadership efforts to kind of put a team together and just start creating our own stuff, because I feel like, you know, having heroes like Seth Rogen in the game who, you know, brought all their friends with them and they continue to make stuff with, that life felt really appealing to me, where you get to make what you want for who you want with your friends. And I'm like, how can we do that? And I think we're doing it.
Yeah, like, you know, going to school for this, you do learn a little bit of everything. I never thought that I would need to apply it. Like I went to film school or TV and film school to basically learn to be an editor. Like I've always been interested in post-production. And I mean, obviously I've been interested in filmmaking in general too, but I just didn't like think I had the chops for it. I was like, I'll just focus on one thing. I'm just going to be an editor. But then ever since we did the Smashed Potato Kids, I've had the opportunity to write, direct, produce and edit all of my own stuff. And now I don't want to turn back. I just want to continue to just be an all-around multifaceted filmmaker. And I also edited Crumbs, and I want to continue to like direct and edit my own films.
Awesome. I really like that you guys do like a number of different things. It's really cool. And the inspiration of or saying that like Seth Rogen is a really, I feel like in the past couple of years, especially, he's really put out some or been behind and connected with some absolutely amazing things that I've just been in love with. Outside of the comedy things, I'm recently watching another show that Invincible that he's connected with right now, and
Love
like
it.
a lot of his TV shows, right, are just he's on such a roll right now.
Yeah, he's really kind of just like stepped back and just like taken on a lot of producing, and like his work with like The Boys and Invincible, like you were saying, like he just really knows how to bring the best people for the job.
Oh yeah, I think Invincible might have the best animated cast I've ever seen in my life. It's ridiculous who they got for that show. They got everybody.
I'm only a couple episodes in, but I'm absolutely loving it. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, we're deviating, but I'm just it's fine. Yeah, Invincible, I think like episode 5 is where it gets really crazy for me. If you get to there, and anyone listening to this, that show is a must watch.
Yeah, it takes you for a ride.
Yeah, right after the first episode, it really does.
It's perfect for us. Like, I don't know, like our age group. I don't know how old you are, Joel, but I'm 32, and I just remember going back to like it reminds me of my cartoon days, but like for me now still because of like the violence and the topic the subject matters going on in the show. So I'm just kind of like I'm really like what's the word, like when it brings you back to your
nostalgic,
yeah.
Super nostalgic, but also like evolved for us adults. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm 33, so yeah, awesome. Around the same time. I think that's why we both have. I think that's why all of us have this connection to like to Super Dark Times as well. It's very nostalgic of like this. A lot of things they're bringing up in the movie, like True Lies, and I like how it's a non-specified 90s movie. I don't think they really say when in the 90s it takes place.
They talk about this in the director commentary, actually, that they didn't want it to be specific, but they're much like our production design team. They ask for specific. They like really want you to be specific so they can set deck it and like clothe people properly. So they gave the date 1995, which was basically what we did too. We were like, I think we said 96, but we wanted it to be very vaguely 90s, mid 90s, basically.
Yeah, we kept saying 90s-ish.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like what Stranger Things did with the 80s. It's like 80s-ish, wherever in the 80s that takes place. Or even to some extent, and this is going to be kind of a leap, but It Follows. I don't even really, have you both seen It Follows?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. How It Follows takes place, and I don't even really know when it takes place, but there's like weird things in that movie that takes place. It kind of looks like it's 90s-ish, but not, because they have cell phones. It's weird. But I always like when films are set in a time era as opposed to a specific time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like when they're really vague with it. Like also, like you brought up Superbad near the beginning. I feel like that movie also is just like it's kind of like this vague timeline. Like it could really take place anywhere. They do also, I think, bring out cell phones at one time, but it's like this could definitely take place anywhere between the 70s and 2000s if you didn't take out the cell phones, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Superbad is great for that.
And that was the reason we basically wanted to set it in the 90s, not only because it's what we knew and it's where we grew up and what we could remember, but also we thought it wouldn't make as much sense, the story we're trying to tell, if cell phones existed in this time frame. And the inspirations, just, what was going on in that time works out better for, how parents were dealing with situations, how parents were treating each other, and, all the inspirations and the things that, you don't see. Of course, kids are drawing still and whatnot, but like drawing in notebooks the way that Shiloh was and things like that. It definitely just made a lot of sense for where we were going with it. And, we had some people try to convince us that we should do it in the specific time frame of now. And it just, this just made the most sense for sure.
Yeah, I think the 90s really did fit, but where you're going with the drawing too, because with his stepdad, I found that his reaction to the drawing and just him finding weird, I feel like that's more of a 90s style like reaction to that, as opposed to now where I feel like we're in a different, even generation of like good or bad father figures. I feel like they're kind of more understanding on like about expression in some ways. Mm-hmm. And I feel like back in the 90s, that was just like a no-go. Like it's like, I feel like it's very different. So yeah, I feel like that really sets a tone for there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think we've ever talk too much about that aspect of it, but yeah, like Harvey in the movie, he was definitely very opposed to like any artistic not only does it like relate back to his actual dad, his birth dad, but it also just like Harvey is very much like a work with your hands type of guy, not artistic at all. So it's an interesting point to bring up for sure.
The bullying aspect too really takes me back to watching like 90s like TV shows about bullying. I mean, bullying's still bullying, but there's a very specific look to 80s and 90s bullies and how they treat people and the things they do and just the insulting. And Super Dark Times are the same thing. It's a very specific type of bully, and I think it really takes you back then. And I mean, like, not just in film of that look, but like just in general, when I think back to kids that are mean, it's just a very specific type of mean kid.
Yeah, it's like they're just I think they mentioned in the director commentary of Super Dark Times too, it's like kids that just like, I'm just messing with you, dude, like chill out. Like it's like people are always just messing with each other in the 90s.
Yeah. And if you get too emotional about it, then it's like something's wrong with you. Like, well, you're actually harassing that person really badly and insulting them.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just gonna ask you, like, outside of comedy and horror, is there any other like genres you guys are looking to do? Because I know you've done a bunch of different like parodies and such like that, but is there anything else that you're really like chomping at to do next, or do you have ideas about that?
Well, I think it's just crazy when you create an idea like Crumbs that there's so many questions to be answered still, and so many questions in other variations. Like we're kind of like currently like kind of still in this world, and it's very fresh. We haven't even released the premiere out there. So, but I mean, Cody has expressed some ideas of some of some film ideas that he has, and I don't really. I think the beauty of creating your own production company with your friends and growing up as filmmakers is like, if we have a cool idea and we think we can make it, I think we just should. I mean, I don't really believe in sticking to one particular genre. So many directors out there switch it up often, and so it's like, if we got a great drama idea or like a, inspired by a true story, even a rom-com, like I think that we would just go for it, to be honest. I think that comedy is just such a natural suit for us. And we've also grown up always watching horror films. Our mom growing up, we used to work at Blockbuster, and we were watching all sorts of messed up stuff at young ages that we weren't supposed to. And it kind of just stuck with us. We've seen some films some people should never watch. But as horror fans, it's just kind of something that, like we just naturally think about. And I think it was surprising how, well we were able to make this film, because it, I guess when you see enough horror films and it inspires you, like you just realize you can create whatever you want, and then add that little comedy flex in the middle to show your true roots.
Of course. Do you remember what your first horror movies were? Do you remember like what stands out to you as what you saw as children together?
Ooh.
I don't know if it was first, but I do know like our mom loved Halloween. I remember seeing that from a young age. I remember seeing Pet Sematary from a young age.
Yes.
A lot of Stephen King stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Freddy Krueger movies as well. Definitely Jason. I think like Jason Lives was one of the first ones I saw. But yeah, all those sorts of movies. I think Halloween was always a treat for, our family. Cause like, and I think our parents just kind of like had the conversation. This isn't real. This is a movie. Let's talk about it. And then, we weren't scared at a certain age, and we could just watch whatever. I think one of the most movies that terrified me the most at a young age was American History X. I think I saw that movie at an age I was not supposed to see. And that's because that's real. That's more scary, like that shit happened. So I think that maybe made it more scary, but like, yeah, we were pretty into the horror scene at a young age.
Yeah. I always find too that anyone that like grew up loving horror, like I grew up loving horror, it's always the non-horror movie that really gets you. That's the one that kind of stands out. Like American History X is definitely one for me. Another one that I guess is a horror as well, but Event Horizon, when I saw that when I was younger, that was one of those ones that kind of stuck out to me too. If you remember that movie.
I haven't seen that either.
Oh,
got to put that on the
highly
list.
recommend it. It's a sci-fi movie. I recommend anyone listening to this podcast too. It's a sci-fi horror with Sam Neill, but a ship that goes through hell, pretty much.
Okay, Event Horizon.
Event Horizon, yeah.
I just watched The Thing for the first time. That's a dope movie.
So good.
So good.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
So good, and I can't believe that it was all practical effects. That's wild.
Yeah.
So it's very, very well done.
It's like a masterclass in in like actual special effects.
Yeah, and a gentleman that was on my podcast a couple episodes ago was talking about how when that movie came out, it actually didn't do well, which is another thing.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. I heard that too. Yeah, that's wild to me.
Which is
a lot of those movies though, like the Shining and stuff like that, are like not way ahead of its time, you know.
Yeah, and to speak about when you're talking about the realism versus, you know, the fairy tale, is like, I think that's what makes our film very strong here, because we really wanted to paint a picture that if you take Crumbs away in certain aspects, again, when you rewatch it, like you can see how it's, you know, Shiloh is evolving into this monster himself. And I think that was, you know, a lot of the realism that we're creating is that it's his mental illness, and it's his mental illness monster that's coming to life. And that's something a lot more people that would be able to relate to, is if they ever felt like they were going so crazy they wanted to kill somebody kind of aspect. But I think that's what kind of will have people on the edge of their seats and really feeling a different way than watching a horror film that's just so like, yeah, right, that couldn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like with the topic of mental illness, when you're watching it, it feels like a more important story, because we've talked about this, about the social aspects of it. It just feels more important than, and I love the whole genre, but like it feels more important than a lot of the throwaway like horrors, right? That don't really have anything else apart from just like slashing and gore, which is fine with me. I love that part of the genre too, but it does feel that with the social aspect, it paints more of a picture and it sticks with you more.
That's very kind
definitely.
of you.
Yeah, we love that stuff as well. Like just like you, we love all aspects of horror. We love just like straight up torture movies, but like the stuff that really sticks with us is like your Ari Aster movies and your Jordan Peele movies that have like this social commentary on top of the horror.
Yeah, and I feel like at a time that we've all kind of been at home and we've all seen different people, how people have reacted with the situation that's going on globally, and a number of different situations that are going on globally, and how people have reacted. It's a good time to put out something that discusses, I think, both an isolation feel that I think that Shiloh feels, but also like the mental health aspect of like how someone that's both isolated and somewhat grieving feels too. Well, not somewhat grieving, but grieving as well feels.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very tough time. And I think one of the things that was really important for us, you know, going back to SPK Productions and Smashed Potato Kids, is like, we created all this stuff while being like basically locked down, working odd jobs here and there. Like, it's been a tough time. And I think the creativity is really what's gotten us through it. And I wanted to help create that for other people. So, you know, while we've been building up and doing these writing rooms and creating sketches, it's the encouragement that we've gotten from the outside world who have joined in with us that really brought us to this moment to be like, hey, that's a great idea. Here's a contest that might, you know, help you escape from what's going on in the world. And you know what, like filming in person was such a treat, like, because we've been doing Zoom sketches and we've been finding any way to meet. And yes, of course we're communicating, but being in person and having that connection is very important. And we need to get back to that. And we're almost through it. But I mean, that was, the feeling was so lovely, working with amazing people and getting to be close enough to them that you could almost kiss them, but you had a mask on. I think that was just a beautiful experience.
As a person that's still pretty much isolated and hasn't gotten to do anything like that, I am so jealous of you guys, because that sounds awesome.
I didn't need to bring it up like that.
No. It sounds absolutely awesome, and and from that you created such a product of people that were like obviously fortunate enough to be together on a project, and a project with heart behind it too. So yeah, it's the best time to come together. I think it was like a perfect storm of things to come together to make this. And from what I'm hearing here, it's been on your mind for a while, Jessey, and you're as well, Cody. So it's really cool to see that all come together.
It is still in my mind. It's still building. There's a lot, like the feature film is like all evolving in my head as we speak. And, you know, there's just, it's feeling a certain way. And that's why it's so important to keep creating, because you will just never stop. And it's a cool feeling that you're like always like solving problems and coming up with little stories about things in your head and like getting it down. So it's like I'm getting similar feelings that I got when I first started to write Crumbs as I am now for like the feature film idea. So there's lots more to come.
That's another question I asked, because I feel that Crumbs can go, and I have mentioned this before about the anthology, but I feel like Crumbs can go like a number of different ways. It can go feature film, it can go anthology, it could go web series, it could go TV series. I feel that there's enough there that the world's kind of your oyster on this one. You can really take it any way or all of the ways, and there's just enough to build on it, which is, I feel like a lot of shorts don't usually have that. So that this is really cool to have like that sort of angle, to be the freedom really to kind of go whichever way you guys want.
Yeah, totally. And we are going to try and explore all those different avenues as much as possible. And I think the thing that's so awesome about the anthology aspect of it is like bringing in new voices and even like new writers, new directors, like new people on every aspect so that we could be a stepping stone for them to share their voice and share things that they've been through.
Yeah, we really see that there's a lot of, talented people out there. Again, this is probably because of how we run things with Smashed Potato Kids and giving people opportunity. We'd like to turn the anthology series into something like that as well. Like, let's go into like a BIPOC community, or let's go into an LGBTQ community. Let's see people in different countries going through trauma and see what their monsters look like. And I think that you have if it's an LGBTQ story, you want to have a director and a writer that, falls into that category and get them to tell their story, because they will tell it the best way. You know what I mean? We told this story because it was partially inspired from things that we had grown up around and family members have gone through. And we think it's important for people to share those stories, and we'd like to guide them and help them create those stories. Whereas I think the film version of Crumbs, I still want to find out what's going on with Shiloh. I still want to find out he's a young kid. Like, there's so much more world of mental illness to explore, and I'd love to see again what his father was like and what he went through. There's just definitely a lot of material there to create a full film version of it. But like Cody said, I think the anthology series idea would be a lot more for other people to share their stories and what they've gone through.
Yeah, I came into this very excited to talk to you both about this movie, but now that you just went a little further into it, I really want to see that feature film. I was pretty excited for the anthology, but yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot to explore there, franchise off as well. But the anthology aspect is really cool. But yeah, the feature film idea that you kind of got, from what it sounds like, really working on there. Would love to see that too.
There's just a lot of cool things that we could like see with like a bigger budget, and like how the monster looked cool in this, but like I think of films like Spawn and like Death Note and those vibes, like bringing in like a graphic novel kind of aspect to it, and like almost making it into like some sort of superhero Traumaverse in a way. I think it'd be really cool to see, because especially a lot of villains in films come from trauma, but you don't really explore their childhood. You don't really find out where that trauma came from. You just know they're evil, or they're, and we're kind of starting with the origin story of what Crumbs, the adventures of Crumbs and Shiloh look like. And I'm very excited to like kind of see what happens to them and where they go and how he deals with his illness. And does he go full batshit crazy, or does he find a way to deal with his anger and his issues? And I don't even fully know all those answers, but like I'm exploring a lot of opportunities and possibilities, and we're all talking about it, and it just gets me excited.
Yeah, you had me at Traumaverse. That sounds like definitely something needs to be explained. I'm explored more. Traumaverse. I really like that. And yeah, I'm getting excited just hearing about that. That's really cool.
Love it. All
right, guys, let's wrap up here. Where can we find you on social media?
So you can find us if you're looking for most of our material. We are at Smashed Potato Kids on Instagram, on YouTube. You can find us at smashpotatokids.com. We got some dope merchandise for sale on there. But if you're exploring the world of Crumbs and what you're chatting to us about now, you can find us at Crumbs Movie. You can find us on Facebook. And you'll be able to find our film May 1st at the Crazy Eights Gala. Tickets are on sale now. Get them while they are hot.
And if you want to follow us individually, you can find Jessey at Mr. Jessey Nelson on Instagram.
Mr.
And
Jessey,
then I am W.
Mr.
Sorry,
Jessey.
Yeah. And I am W. Cody Nelson on Instagram. Most of our content is on Instagram. Oh, no, I was just saying most of our content is either on Instagram or through Smashed Potato Kids on YouTube.
Perfect. I'll be putting this all in the show notes. And one more thing I'm going to add, because I did go through your website, your merch is absolutely awesome. So anyone listening to this, actually check out their merch, because a lot of people do say that they're, even myself included, will pitch their merch, but your guys' merch on your website is absolutely awesome. So check that out. Anyone else
Thank you.
listening to
We
this.
wanted to create something simple and something cool that we would all wear. So we hope we hit that box. I would like to say one more thing. We are going to be having another campaign on A Seed and Spark in the near future. So it'd be good to keep an eye out for that. As we are going into the festival circuits, these things can become pricey. And we're trying to get as many eyeballs on this short film as we can be seen so that we can bring this feature film to a reality. So if you see A Seed and Spark out there titled Crumbs, anything would help. And if anybody you know is interested in getting involved in executive producing or funding a feature film, we'd love to talk to them.
Awesome. And any Seed and Spark that they mention or share, I will also share on West Coast Strange as well. Because I just want to see you guys do the best, even more stuff, because I'm excited for the Traumaverse. So anything you guys need for as far as Seed and Spark, I will make sure to share on West Coast Strange as well.
That's awesome, man.
So
really appreciate that. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And you can find me at West Coast Strange on Instagram and on Facebook. And yeah, this has been another No Stranger to Horror. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
We'd love to come back.
Of course.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back and do Hereditary too, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on Hereditary.
I could talk for hours on Hereditary.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys, have a good night there.
Thanks, Joe.
You too.
Welcome.